Hello everybody. I've been asked to talk a little bit about my life with the Blessed Mother, Mary. I grew up in a time going through CCD, let's say in the late 70s, mid to late 70s. And Mary was not really stressed or taught as a topic of spirituality, oddly enough, which is exactly the opposite of my mother. In her generation, she would always say, everything was about Mary in my day, and nobody ever talked about Jesus. Well, in mine, if your story is like mine, growing up in the 70s and 80s, it was the opposite. It was sort of like we heard a lot about Jesus, but Mary wasn't a part of it. So as I was becoming a deacon and training to become a deacon, and as a young deacon, which I think I still am, I remember one day I was sitting in my living room where I pray, and I was thinking about Mary, and I remember saying to her, Blessed Mother, I'm not sure where we're at in our relationship. I don't not have a relationship with you, but it really hasn't been a part of my formation, so I don't know what to think about you and I. This was what I was saying to the Blessed Mother. And on the shelf next to where I was praying, there was a statue like this. It might even have been this statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe. So I entered into a little imaginative prayer, which you may have learned as a topic in Oremus. I just said to myself, I looked at that statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and I said, how would Mary respond to my statement that I don't know where we're at, Mother? And so I thought, well, in my imagination, I saw her say, come over here, like she was standing there in front of me. So I went and I walked over and I stood next to her, and she was bigger than me, like a mom. And I thought, what would she say now? And she took my hand and she placed it on her belly. And Our Lady of Guadalupe is known to be with child. That's what this black ribbon around her waist indicates, that she's pregnant. So she placed my hand on her belly, and it was one of those hard, ripe, watermelon type pregnant bellies. And she said, do you feel that in there? She said, that's your brother. So I was imagining myself, this little guy standing next to the Blessed Mother with my hand on her stomach, and she said, that's your brother in there. And then I thought, now what would I do? So I imagined grabbing her around the waist and kissing her belly, because Jesus was in there. And then I looked up at her like I was a little boy standing before my mother. And because this is my imaginative prayer, I can say this. She took her hand and kind of messed up my hair, which I had in my imaginative prayer. And she said, don't worry, we're fine. And then she took her mantle and playfully kind of wrapped it around me like that. And so the lesson I got from that and my prayer with the Blessed Mother was, it's okay to not quite know what this relationship is all about. She's there. She's there to do what she did at the wedding of Cana, which was basically say, do whatever he tells you. She exists only to help us draw closer to her Son, not to obtain any glory for herself. So that's my story with Mary. At this point, she said, we're okay. Let it just happen. Just let it be. And I'll lead you closer to Jesus. If he's your brother and I'm his mother, then I'm also your mother.
It's funny, I think back about my relationship with her. I never sought her out in my life. The more I look back, I almost think she was always seeking me. It wasn't until I got to seminary in Italy that I had this opportunity to visit all these apparition sites, and the invitations came to me. I didn't seek them. I reached the point that, gosh, she's looking for me.